Welcome back to the agda-unimath formalization stream on Twitch. We are going to continue today with the book, A Course in Constructive Algebra by Ray Mines, Fred Richman, and Wim Rattenberg. Let me just send out Twitch and Discord and tweets so that people know that we're online. 1 second here, tweet there. All right, good, we're good to go. And before we get started, let me also mention that on Twitter I started a poll. So if you are watching this and haven't responded yet to the poll, my colleague Orban, he suggested to me that I could write my book on Twitch, live streaming while I'm writing, and I thought this could be a great idea because well, at least it will be always nice to hang out here, and you could see how I'm writing the book, what I'm writing, ask me questions. If you've done the summer school this summer, then you'll probably be able to follow even the stuff that I'm writing, which is about later parts of the book, but you'll have all the background that you might need for that. So yeah, if you have a chance to go over to Twitter, respond there. It looks like the overwhelming majority is responding that it's a great idea, and I think so too. So probably later this week I will start doing that. So then I will not only be formalizing live, but also writing the book live. But I'll give it a day or two to think over the plan, and meanwhile you can let me know what you think. All right. So let's go back to the book. We were in section 1, still 1.2, which covers some basic set theory. And I hope that we can wrap up this section today. I'm not so sure, but let's try it. Because we do want to get to more interesting mathematics as soon as possible. Although, on the other hand, every time we do find a detour, a generalization that we can do with the help of the univalence axiom, then for sure we are going to go for it. Let's just make sure I can keep up with the chat. Agda-unimath is streaming. Good. Yeah, so I will be following the chat also. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. All right, let's go to the book. So the previous part was about functions, and here it says that to construct a function from a to b, it suffices to construct a subset S of the Cartesian product a times b with the properties that for each a in a there is a b such that ab is an S. So this b will be the value of the function, and moreover there's at most one such b, which is expressed here in condition 2. If we have a b1 and a b2 in S, then b1 must be equal to b2. So let's define that in the library, because we definitely didn't do that yet. So this goes into the foundation folder. And we are going to do it not only for sets, but for arbitrary types. This will be, first of all, more interesting to us. this is also known to be true, so so there will be no problem. And the proof will involve the univalence axiom. I'll just pour some drink. So we are going to call this thing functional correspondences, I think. Functional correspondences. I think that's a good name. Here we are. This is a new file. The reason I'm calling these relations correspondences is that in the type theoretic setting, especially with the univalence axiom, the relation doesn't have to be valued in propositions. And then some people like to call those correspondences rather than relations. So let's open the module for this file. It's in Foundation, and it's called functional correspondences. So there we are. And let's write the idea. A functional correspondence is a binary correspondence from a type A to a type B. So the correspondence, let's just call it R, such that for every A in A, hello, thanks for the follow. Nate4, thank you for being here. Right, so a functional correspondence is a binary correspondence R from a type A to a type B, such that for every A in A, the type sigma B, let's just write it in normal notation, RAB is contractible. So this says the two conditions in one go. So this will mean that for every A in A, there is a B such that RAB holds. Notice that they use the letter S, but we're using the letter R. Let's use the letter S, because they're doing that in the book too. But also that the condition that this type is contractible will imply this. Okay, the type of functions from A to B. The type of functions from A to B is equivalent to the type of is equivalent to the type of functional correspondences. And actually I'm thinking we could even make this dependent. Let's try that. I haven't seen that before, but I think we can. A functional, let's say, dependent correspondence is a binary, let's say dependent here. So now let's just clarify the type by the internet on my laptop has a little bit of trouble keeping up today, but that's okay. So this one goes from A in A to B of A to the universe. You get this one by typing capital M, little c, and then the letter that you want to write calligraphically. So we wrote a U this time, but if you want, you can write a P, and then you get the P. From a type A, okay. So this sentence is now not entirely grammatical anymore. To a type, let's just write to a type family B over A, such that for every A in A, now this one has a type, but this is contractible, and now the type of dependent functions from A to B is equivalent to the type of functional correspondences. This should still be true. Let's give this a try. So yeah, this is to say contractible instead of exist and unique. That is a really standard way to do it in homotopy type theory, and it really works like a charm. So it's super nice. Yeah. Definition. So we are going to assume, I think just a module, no, is functional dependent correspondence. I think it's a bit wordy, but let's go for it. Okay, so we need 3 universe levels, one for A, one for B, and one for the correspondence. Oops. Level. Now we need to assume our A, which is going to be in L1. We need to assume our B, that goes from A to L2. And we assume S. I suppose the letter for correspondence should just be C. And let's not follow the book. C. And here too. C, say it's for every A in A. Oh, why do I say A in A and I type X in A? B A U L3. Okay, so we have this C, and now we are going to express a type, but we are actually going to express the property, because it will be nice to know that this is a property. Is functional dependent correspondence prop C equals. Okay, and now since I just started this file, I didn't make any imports yet, so I have to make those imports, and the only 2 things that I need to write now are level and propositions, because we state here level and prop, but we also know already that we're going to need to import contractibility. So open import foundation contractible types, open import foundation propositions, and open import foundation universe levels. So this should now compile. The universe level, we keep it unspecified for now, and when we finish the definition, we will ask agda to compute it for us. So what we want to say is this property that for every A in A, this type is contractible. That's what we want to say. but we want to express this as a property, so we must record that the pi is going to be a proposition. Oops, this wants two arguments. The first argument is the domain of quantification. So this basically means for all, but the for all symbol is taken in agda, which is really annoying sometimes that it takes away very useful symbols from the user and has a different meaning for those. The other one is, of course, the equality sign. It would be much nicer if we could write definitions like this, but we can't. So, so pi prop a. Oops. Okay, so a equals a. So this means here we got the question about this last time as well. The implicit argument that is called a in this definition is going to be assumed with the letter a. So we're not making any assertions here, but we're just saying that we are assuming a variable a for the spot of this variable. And now we can assume b. And if we didn't do that, then actually what would happen is slightly confusing. Now agda would think that that the first implicit argument is going to be a variable called a. So now this one will be of type level. So if we didn't write a equals a, then we would get the wrong thing. That's how it works. So we're quantifying over a, lambda x to something, and now we have to give a proposition of unspecified universe level. So we are going to say is contour, but this contour is just the type of proofs of contractibility. We want the proposition, so that's like that. And we see that we're gonna need sigma, so let me import that real quick. Open import foundation dependent pair types. So sigma types are also called dependent pair types because they consist of the dependent pairs, and that's why this file is also called dependent pair types. Sigma b of x, c of x. So I don't need to write lambda y to c of xy here. I can just simplify that. So actually this fits on a line. And now agda is able to figure out the universe level, which involves all three universe levels. So we still want to also have the type is functional dependent correspondence. L1, L2, L3, level A in L1, B, A to L2, and C from A in A, to B of A to L3, to UU, L1, L2, L3. So now we express the type is functional dependent correspondence. C equals the underlying type of the proposition is functional dependent correspondence prop C. And the reason why I'm doing it this way, so this seems backward, that I'm first defining the proposition and then the underlying type. And we could also have done the other way around, where we would first define this and then prove that it's a proposition and then record the proposition. But those proofs are always the same, and those are recorded in here. So here we have to do less work. So it required a little bit of setup, but it's fine. Here less work is going on. So now we can define the type of functional dependent correspondences. L1, L2, L3, level A, L1, B, A2, L2, and this is a type. Oops. And the A and B now should be explicit, and the universe level of the correspondence should also be explicit. Functional dependent correspondence in universe level L3 on the type A and B equals, it's a sigma type consisting of the dependent correspondences and then is functional dependent correspondence. That just doesn't work. Hey, that's not nice. Why this doesn't work? Okay. Lambda C. I was hoping. Oh, sorry. I was hoping that I wouldn't need to write lambda C. Still doesn't work, it doesn't make a difference. Did I make a typo? Corresponds, okay. Right. Oh, hello, Jimmy Lopez. Thanks for joining today. I see there is a question. Does this definition of a functional dependent correspondence let you treat C as a function? Or do you need something like unique choice to get that out? So no, we actually are going to prove this statement here, that the type of dependent functions is equivalent to the type of functional dependent correspondences. Oops. So the idea is actually that we will eventually prove that this type x a to b of x is equivalent to the type functional dependent correspondence. We have to figure out the universe level, but on A and B. And I think the universe level should be something like maybe L1 square cup L2, but don't really know for sure, and agda will actually just tell us what it's gonna be. So yeah, the goal is today to prove this, and we don't need any axioms of choice. The action of unique choices is actually provable. You could actually say that that here we are proving an instance of that. So this is the goal. Let me just erase that universe level. So this universe level is L1, max L2, max the successor of L3, and that's because here we quantify over the whole universe in L3. Okay, let me just write a little bit of infrastructure. L3 level A, L1, B, A2, L2, and now C, functional dependent correspondence, L3 AB. So the dependent correspondence that is underlying to the functional dependent correspondence. This will be something of type for every x in A to b of x to u L3. Oh, if I generalized the thing yesterday. No, I was actually quite tired after we were done with the theorem, so it is still the way it is, and I left in some other part of the formalization I left the hole open, so I didn't push it yet. But I will hopefully fix that tonight and and push it to the repository. So this is just the first projection of C, and yeah, I'm not really happy with such long names. Let me just remove dependent from the name because it is. Nah, let's not do that. Okay. And the other thing that we want is functional dependent. So we want to assert that this thing is functional. That's a rather long name, but this thing. Oops. So I have a habit of writing out these projections by hand, and you see those names. Today they are quite long. I'll maybe fix that later, but these are the natural names, PR2C. Okay, so now properties. So let's just say it. The type of dependent functions this here is equivalent to the type of functional dependent correspondences from A to B. So we want to construct a functional dependent correspondence from a dependent function, and we are going to assume L1, L2 level and A and L1 and B from A to L2, so that we don't have to keep assuming them. So now we are going to go from x and A, bx to functional dependent correspondence. Some universe level that we don't know yet, and A and B. So we start with the dependent function. Oops. And we want to construct this relation first. So this one takes x and a y. And we want to assert that f of x equals y. That's the relation. So let's put identity types in here. Open, import, foundation, identity types. So this is f of x equals y. And now we need to prove that this relation is functional. So we need to assume an x, and we prove that basically the space the type of all y such that this equality holds is contractible, and that's of course by is contour total pad at f of x, so that the total space of the pad space is always contractible. And so this universe level, remember that I thought, okay, it might be L1 max L2, so it's even simpler, it's just L2, and the reason is that it's identifications in B. So it's or in B of x, you can say, which is in L2. Okay, so that's very convenient. So we got now the function forward. So now let's make the function backwards. So we want to construct a dependent function out of a functional dependent correspondence. This might actually work for all universe levels, so let's just make this nice and general. Then we'll get in trouble again, but we assume C, and we assume X, and we have to construct something in B of X. So we have this this fact that the functional dependent correspondence is functional. So this functional correspondence. Oops. How about this name is so long because we're gonna use this, and I could use just a projection, but if you do that, then the so here it would be okay. But if you make a habit of just using projections, then your code quickly starts to be unreadable. So I don't like it very much. C X. So this is now a proof, a term of type is contour the total space of Bx such that C of x holds. So we can take the center of contraction. Now we have an element here, and we just take the first projection, and that's in B of x. This is what we want. So you see how we got this function. We didn't need anything about it. We just we didn't need any axiom of choice or something. We just get it straight out of the data. You're not seeing why this is useful. Well, what's the motivation in the algebra book? They actually do give a little bit of motivation. So here they say what they do, and then they say in the computational interpretation, the algorithm for the function comes from 1, which specifies the construction of an element B depending on the parameter A. So they have this really super constructive point of view where they think that this here specifies an algorithm. So that's their interpretation of there exists, is to give an algorithm for every A to construct a B. And then they say without 2, however, the algorithm implicit in 1 need not be extensional. So this one says that the function sends equal elements to equal elements. So that's the motivation. Whether it is useful, well, maybe not in this particular case, although I would doubt that it's not useful. So first of all, it's a nice exercise with univalence. To you'll see that that we'll soon need something about univalence to get this equivalence. And you can also consider binary relations. So binary relations from a type A to a type B to some universe. And then you can ask if it is functional as a relation from A to B. But you can also swap the arguments of A and B. So you can say, okay, this here, it's gonna give also a relation from B to A. And you can ask that this relation is functional and that this relation is functional. And that turns out to be equivalent to the type of equivalences between A and B. And now you can ask again, okay, is this a useful characterization of equivalences? And the answer is yes. Mike Schulman, he uses this characterization of equivalences a lot in his definition of observational type theory. So I don't know if you saw the lectures of Mike Schulman that he gave in April or May about higher observational type theory, and he used this approach for equivalences. So an equivalence is a functional relation that is functional in both directions. So maybe we will prove this, but maybe not. For now, let's just consider this to be a nice observation about what dependent functions really are. They are functional dependent correspondences. So for a dependent setting, you can swap the arguments. But for the non-dependent settings, you can. So that's special about the special case of the non-dependent ones. So now we are doing something about the dependent functions. Good. Are we good? Then let's first show the easy direction. That if you start with a dependent function here, and then you pass it on to obtain a functional dependent correspondence, and then you can pass it on to obtain a dependent function. The question is, do you obtain the same function back? And the answer is, of course, going to be yes. So this will be isRetter dependent function so now we are going to restrict to universe level L2. Let's just assume x in A to P of x. This should be equal to f. Let's see. So this is constructed using function extensionality. So that's the equality obtained using a homotopy. Oops. After I import the file, open import foundation function extensionality. So now what we have to do is, instead of constructing this equality, we have to construct a homotopy between those two functions. So you can just say lambda x. Oops, I don't like so much that agda is a bit inconsistent with when it puts parentheses and when not. Are we lucky and this is just raffle? No. You should always try, I think. If it's raffle, then it would be nice. But it's not raffle. And the reason is that it's it should actually be raffle. Let's go to the file about contractible, oops, not maps, contractible types. I think what goes on here is, oh, this one is defined here. Oops. That this projection map is abstract. I don't like that. Oh, this might actually give some trouble. Okay, let's not change that. Okay. Oops. Okay. So we have this is functional dependent correspondence. We have this thing, oops. Correspondence, right. So we turned f into a functional dependent correspondence, and we used the fact that that is functional. So that's this proof that this total space is contractible. So now we want to evaluate this at x. Let's put that argument here. And we have a couple of things. Okay, so we know that this is contractible, so we can call ek is counter. So any two elements of a contractible type are equal. And this takes two arguments, x equals something, or something. And this gives us an equality in the total space of this type family here. But we want an equality from f of x, sorry, from this function evaluated at x to that function evaluated at x. So what happens if we do can we just do appbr1? This is rather hideous. Is it something like this? That seems to be okay with it. Okay. So here we want a pair. And here we want a pair. And here it's just going to be f of x and raffle. And here too, that would be too much, right? No. Here we want to say this function, dependent function, functional dependent correspondence. So this one, oops, add x, so it takes 2 arguments. And this one is the functional dependent correspondence obtained from the dependent function f. And now there should be a reason why that is this raffle. Yeah, that would be too good. Also, I don't like, in this case, really the notation. So when the notation gets long, when the elements or the terms get very long, then this comma notation becomes really, really bad, I think. Then it's just better to say pair up front, so you know immediately that it's going to be a pair, and then you state the 2 components of the pair. Okay, so now we need the reason. What's agda asking is this dependent correspondence. Okay, so if I didn't make that thing abstract, it would just be projections. Here. What happens if we normalize this? So this could be an instance where normalization is actually useful. So I'm gonna copy this and press Ctrl+C, Ctrl+N to normalize this expression. And yeah, this is useful. So it wants us to show that f of x is equal to this thing. Oh, okay. So that's gonna be PR2 of this. And that's what it is. I think that's it. Perhaps it could have been a little simpler. Yeah, I don't know. I will have to look if we can simplify this, but right now I'm not really seeing it. Oops. So now we want C to be a functional dependent correspondence of universe level L2 AB. And the reason is now we want to restrict the universe level to L2 is because if we start with a functional dependent correspondence and we return a function, and from that function we are going to return some functional dependent correspondence, the universe level will be L2. So that means that if we want to say that that when we started we got to in the end to the same point, then this universe level must have been L2. To functional dependent correspondence of the dependent function of the functional dependent correspondence C equals C. And now we have a little problem. We want to express an equality in the type of functional dependent correspondences. So what we first need to do before we can even construct this this equality is to characterize the equality of the type of functional dependent correspondences. So this is what we first need to do before we can do this. Characterization of equality in the type of functional dependent correspondences. And this is where we're going to use univalence. Okay, so let's make a definition. Module. Do I want to open a module? Maybe. I think I want to open a module, but one step later. Equif functional dependent correspondence. L1, L2, L3, L4. A in L1, B dependent type over A in L2. And now C, a functional dependent correspondence in L3, A, B, and D, a functional dependent correspondence in L4, A, B. And we are going to say what it means for them to be equal, to be equivalent. And so the type of those things is this type, and this one is a proposition. So actually this will be slightly clearer if we would write it using the subtypes, because we constructed this as a subtype of the type of all such dependent correspondences. So what this is really is the underlying type of the subtype is functional dependent correspond prop, and we want to specify universe level L3. And A and B. Yeah. It is unhappy. Oh. So it's that mistake that I just told you about in the beginning. It thought that this variable L3 was the name for this slot, and then A went on this slot and B went on this slot, so it was all wrong. So it's the underlying type of this subtype, and this will help us because we have defined the subtype identity principle. Open import foundation subtype identity principle, which will is basically a power tool to do this stuff. Anyway, so we want to say that for every x in A, y in B of x, we want to say that C of xy is equivalent to D of xy. And I think we didn't import equivalences yet, so we need to do that. Oh, A, B, C, so, oops, what am I doing here? So C is a functional dependent correspondence, but we need to take the underlying dependent correspondence of C. So this thing has no meaning. This can be like that. Okay, now a module. L1, L2, L3 level. A and L1, B, L2, and C functional dependent correspondence L3AB. And the first thing we're gonna do is define it equiv functional dependent correspondence. Which will be an equivalence from C to C. Xy equals it equiv. We want to show that the total space of those things is contractible. So we're going to apply the fundamental theorem of identity types. Correspondence C. I hope that type checks. Cool. Okay. So now we have a rather complicated type, and we should show that it is. Hi JC Practices, how are you doing? Hey, I saw that you yesterday made a few clips of the videos, and while I was trying to make clips, I thought I was messing things up, and then I wanted to clean up what I was the mess that I made, and I was afraid I maybe removed some of yours accidentally before I realized that they were not the clips that I was making mistakenly. So if I did that, I apologize, and I will still want to thank you for making them, and it was an accident that they got removed. Yeah. I also looked at some of your videos. It looks quite nice, your guitar skills. Really good. Okay, so this is by is_contour total subtype, which is a function that is defined in this file about the subtype identity principle. This file defines nothing, but here it goes. Is_contour total subtype says that if you have a type family and over A, and you have a type family over B, and you know that sigma AB is contractible, and you know that P is a property for all x, then you can conclude that the subtype of all A in P equipped with a B is contractible. So that's something that we're gonna use. Oops, here we are. Yeah, that's good. So I'm doing the same thing here with sharing the process about making this library and to make it contain all the metrics that I want to put in there, and for you it's the same. You showed a process of your guitar recitals. Yeah, it's really nice. I really enjoyed watching it. Okay, so let's clean this up a little bit. So did we prove is_prop? No, we didn't. Is_prop is functional dependent correspondence. L1, L2, L3. And it's just the fact that the underlying type of a proposition is a proposition. So there it is. There was nothing to show. It's just that, yeah. So this is C. Oop, I thought it was C. Oh no. It's the underlying dependent correspondence of C. What is this asking? This is just asking that it is functional. Oops, not a C. It's not that. Okay. It's slightly confusing. So in 1, we have to show something in 1. Is this maybe adequate? So agda is not really helpful here because it's just states a very long term, but I think it's just the fact that it's adequate. Yeah. Okay, so we got it down to something reasonable, but the sticking point is here we have to show that this total space is contractible. Okay, and this is where we're gonna use univalence. I think we have to use equality of pi types. Open import foundation equality of dependent function types. Here. So this is now going to be is contour total ec pi, which is a function that we just imported. So now we have to give this one again. I thought we had to give this one. Okay, apparently not. Hey. Lambda x c. Oh, okay. We have to. No, sorry, this is d. So given an x and given a family d, we have to state that for every y in b of x, c of x, oops, it's not that. Ooh. It is that. D of y. Okay, that's so now what this is now asking is to show for every x that the total space of this type family is contractible. Do we have this? Yeah. In the in the file about univalence, so we're gonna import univalence now. Open import foundation univalence. Let's have a look. There is so there's of course the file which does univalence. So this is the function that starts with an equality and turns it into an equivalence. It's called equiv ec here. and the reason is that if you write equiv ec p, then it is the equivalence from the equality p. So so this part is close to the type of the variable that you want, and I also always have the output on the left, and it's basically for the reasons like this, that if you write equiv ec p, then it's the equivalence of the equality p. You can just read it like that. So that's why I have this naming scheme. There's a bunch of setup, so it's not too interesting. But here you get ec equiv, you get that the total space of equivalences is contractible and stuff like that. But in the other file about univalence, so in foundation core, which imports this one, the other one publicly, we have equiv fam, and it does the same thing but for families, and that's what we're going to use. It gives us a little shortcut. Here. Oops. And here we have to again call this function. I'm just going to copy and paste it. Not too happy about that. Okay, it's fine. Okay, so this is the step where we used univalence. And now we can, we've proven that the total space is contractible, so now we can finish off the characterization of the identity type. So let's make an equiv ec for functional dependent correspondences. For every d functional dependent correspondence L3AB, and then we have a function from C equals D to equiv functional dependent correspondence CD. And this one is constructed by path induction. And I don't know why it doesn't put the C there. This is it equiv. Oops. Functional dependent correspondence. Just like that. And then is equiv ec functional dependent correspondence. Oops, D. And we're claiming now that this function that we just constructed is an equivalence. We don't assume D. We're gonna use the fundamental theorem of identity types to do this. Open import foundation fundamental theorem of identity types. Oh, this doesn't use so many arguments anymore. It used to have 4 arguments and then realized that I could get away with 2. Is contour total equiv functional dependent correspondence. Let's use that. And then the second argument is the function that we claim to be an equivalence. So equiv ec and that does just does the job. Yeah. So now we can even have an extensionality for functional dependent correspondences. And this one says that the type of identifications is equivalent to functional dependent correspondence. And the underlying map is equiv-ec. And the fact that it's an equivalence is equiv-ec. So there you have it. And now we can also have ec-equiv. And this one says that if you have an equivalence of functional dependent correspondences from C to D, then you can conclude that C is D. And this is the inverse, the underlying map of the inverse of extensionality. Okay, so that went a little quick, but this is just, all of it is just to have this function, which allows us to construct equality of functional dependent correspondences, which we are going to use here. So 3 arguments, hopefully. No. Not if you didn't assume your variables. So the first one is this one here. The second one is C. And the third one, we have to construct this equivalence. And I think this might actually still be some work. So maybe we should do it separately. I think we should do this separately. So it's never a good idea to do too many things in one construction. This is already very long. Don't like it very much. So we're gonna construct equiv is sec dependent functional. And let's put this in a module, I think. Right. So this one actually, so now we want, instead of constructing the equality, we want to construct an equivalence. And now it doesn't matter anymore what the universe level of C is, because for equivalences we have a bit more freedom. So what I'm gonna do is open a module and have another universe variable, and we let C be a functional dependent correspondence. and it's gonna be this one here. It goes to C. Right. So this here asks us to construct for every x and y an equivalence. So I am tempted to furthermore separate out the map. Let's do that. Oh, hi, Runek. Okay. I'm new in unimath and I was thinking of contributing about the Cauchy rule numbers. Thing is, unlike the rationals, there is no normal form, so I was thinking of postulating that two functions from n to q are equal when their difference converges to 0. Is this fine? Well, first of all, yeah, thank you for coming and for being here and for wanting to contribute. That's really awesome. I would be super happy if you could contribute the Cauchy real numbers. But I should warn you that we don't have really much about the rational numbers yet. So it's gonna be somewhat of a struggle to really get that project going. And one of the things we're going to need first is probably the operations on the rational numbers, plus and times, divisions, stuff like that, and show that it satisfies the axioms of a ring or axioms of a field. Once we get more stuff going about the rational numbers, I think we can start projects like this. But right now it's it's gonna be a steep uphill climb if you want to start to do that now. So I would suggest, if you want to do a project, it's certainly very welcome. I'm super happy if you want to do that, but start with something small. So the Cauchy real numbers, of course, you probably know that's already an ambitious project to formalize, even if all the stuff that you need about the rational numbers is there. So I would, maybe like start with defining addition on the rational numbers. That would be really cool. So I can quickly show you in elementary number theory what files we have there. Not sure if this is gonna compile. But you see here there's stuff about integers and stuff about natural numbers. But not very much about the rational numbers. So there's a file which introduces them. But it's not very good yet. Let's see what's in there. So there's reduced fractions. Does it ever get to Q? So it doesn't even get to the definition of Q. So yeah, I think for for this project, rational numbers is the way to start. If you want to do this, go to Discord, and in Discord, on the agda-unimath Discord, there's a list of formalization targets, and one is about elementary number theory. And that's the thread where we are discussing formalization of the rational numbers at the moment, because there's another person who wants to do this. So if we can start chatting there, then we can definitely find something for you to do. Yeah. And Ian says this is the reason why we're working with algebra, because you can just skip the rational numbers. Is that what you're saying? We definitely have to get the rational numbers. We cannot do serious theory of fields without rationals, so there's no way around it, but it will take time to formalize everything. Like even in this book that we're formalizing, at some point he's gonna start talking about the rational numbers, and that's the point that if they aren't at that point in the library yet, then I will do it here on this stream to just formalize them. Yeah. Okay. So we were here. We want to construct the underlying map, and this one is going to say that for every x in A, for every y in B of x, we want to have a function from this thing at xy to C of xy. Hey, thanks for the follow, Kano-kan. Or, sorry, Kano-chan. Good to see you here. Y to C. Oh. Right, this cannot be evaluated at x and y. So, what this is saying here is that, sorry, is that this thing equals y. And then we want to claim that the dependent correspondence, we want to claim basically C of x, xy. This is what we want to claim, but C is not the relation itself. It is the functional dependent correspondence, which has more data. So we need to have the underlying dependent correspondence. It not happy? What is going on here? So this is the dependent function of C. These parentheses are not necessary. At x, so this should be an element of B of x. And oh, I forgot how to write agda, and okay. So right, so we can do now path induction on P, our favorite thing. Oh, and it writes this really long expression, but luckily agda understands it if we put an underscore there. So we can clean it up a little bit. And now we have to construct something in C of x of this function here applied to x. How do we do that? How do you do that? Let's normalize this. Okay. I think it's gonna be this here, but PR2. So that's what it will be, pretty sure. Yeah, because okay, so you see this already is rather unreadable, and it's because we want to use these projections. We're doing a little too much. This one, what it says is it is this one. This is PR2C. It's the fact that C is functional. So I like it a bit better if we just put that in here. Then at least, oops. Then at least this here is readable. Did I miss something? Sorry, I have to quickly check. Okay, that's something. Okay, so this is the underlying map of this equivalence. Oops. Oops. Map equiv, exec, dependent, function, functional, dependent, correspondence. Why is it not in scope? Ah, there's typo. Okay, so that's what it is. Let's just break this line. This equality sign is also not placed correctly. Something like that. Good. Here we have the same problem. Okay. Now we need to prove that this map here is an equivalence. Right. And we can we can do that by using the fundamental theorem of identity types again, because this is really nice. The total space of this type family is contractible if you sigma over all the y's. That's contractible. And the sigma of this type family, sigma over the y's, is contractible because the dependent correspondence is assumed to be functional. So if you have sigma y and b of x cxy, that's contractible. That's exactly the condition that that C is functional. Alright, so what we're gonna do is use the fundamental theorem of identity types again to prove that this is an equivalence. Is equiv, map equiv. Oh, these names get so long. I need to... Oh no, shit. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have a meeting at the moment. So, yeah, I'm really sorry. I have to cut this short, I'm afraid. Yeah, I have to cut it short because I'm meeting. I'm really sorry. Let's meet again tomorrow. I'm gonna continue this around 3 or 4 o'clock, I think. All right. Thank you so much for joining today, and see you tomorrow. I'm sorry that I forgot my meeting, so yeah, it happens, but I have to go. Bye bye. Oh, I should help you. Best on leaves. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see the questions. You have a math question? But I'm afraid, yeah, ask it on Discord or on Stack Exchange, because it looks like it's not directly univalent mathematics. But yeah, definitely try asking on Discord. Maybe people will help you. I have to run. But thank you so much for coming. And see you all soon. Have a nice day. Bye bye.